engaged in regularly. But we've also started this other work, including some animal and plant work. And so we look at native plants. The spiny redberry is the home of, well, it's where the eggs are laid of the Hermes copper butterfly. And that zone where they lay their eggs was shrinking, and they became listed as a threatened species. The Hermes copper butterfly is only found in Southern California, little bit into Baja, little bit into Arizona, but mostly San Diego County. So we wanted to figure this out. So we studied the spiny redberry plant and found that there are compounds that have never been identified before, and that these compounds are responsible for if you have an increased amount, the butterfly seeks out that plant. So that was really interesting. And we have a really fun black bear project going on, where some of the biologists came to us and said, okay, we don't know why different bears actually mate with the females who are in heat. Some of them really know right before they are going to ovulate. And other bears just, as soon as they come into heat, they start mating. And what are they sensing that allows these older and wiser bears to actually figure out, okay, this is the time? So we studied bear urine, and we found that there were 4 compounds that were produced right before the bear ovulates. And those compounds, one of them is called whiskey lactone, and it is the main odorant, the main scent of Kentucky bourbon. So and this is, we're going to publish this soon, and I'm sure we'll be doing the Sierra Club circuit to say, yeah, it's not really the alcohol that's attracting them, because they did that study. It's actually what's in the alcoholic beverage. So it's in beer, it's in wine, it's in all sorts of alcoholic beverages. So the moral of that story is, if you're camping and bringing alcohol, bring vodka. Okay, so I don't usually talk about alcohol to 7th graders, but that is just a really interesting finding, because it was a totally unexpected finding. And that's the type of thing that really makes my work fun, is just when students say, okay, this can't be right. It's saying that they're making whiskey lactone. And then when we looked it up, it's definitely what they were making. And it's common in panda bears to actually produce that as well. So, the literature supports it, and we actually did find it. So now we're trying to do the study of, does that compound alone attract the bears? So it's very interesting. Go ahead to the next slide.
Oops, I missed one. There we are.
There we go. So just a little bit about my job. So as a dean, I'm still leading that team of research students, but I'm also, I also advocate for the college. So I advocate for the faculty kind of within the university. I advocate for the university outside of the university setting. And I definitely manage. So I routinely have to, tell everybody what's going on within the college. But in the community, it means a lot of corporate partnerships. And right now we are trying to build a new building. And that's what you see there is the mock-up of the new building for integrated science and engineering. And in that building, we're trying to put in a lot more student spaces than they've done on a typical CSU campus, and trying to put in some things like smart city hubs in there for people to come in and really learn how to use their smart devices, and to actually develop devices that are used to make everyday life better. We also are looking at some different engineering programs. And so that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit, is kind of the different programs that we have available at Cal State San Marcos. So a little bit more about my work. So go ahead, Linda, to the next slide. So in February of 2023, I went to Washington, D.C., and I met with, first off, I met the Secretary of the Navy, and then worked with the Director of Naval Research and the Director of Scripps Institution of Oceanography to try to bring more diversity to oceanography. So if you look at the gender diversity, those numbers are not really clear. And the reason they're not clear is because they do it by marine science for the gender studies. Well, marine biology has definite overrepresentation of women, but actual physical oceanography does not. It's somewhere between about 20% and 40%. And so that's actually not as bad as other disciplines, believe it or not. But if we look at ethnicity within these physical oceanography fields, it's pretty bad. So if we look at just the PhDs in oceanography in general, then we had, in terms of Latinx students, we had over the last 10 years that was recorded, we had 41 total Latinx PhDs in oceanography. That's 3.8%, whereas 18.7% is the US population. For Black students, it was even worse, 1.4% versus 12.1% in the US population. And like I said, for women, it's a little unclear because the numbers were given in a different study. They just, for some reason, it was reported by the National Science Foundation in 2 different studies. And so it's somewhere between the physics and the earth science, because that's where it was physical oceanography was counted. So between 21% female PhDs in physics and 44% in earth science. So compared to engineering, oceanography is making progress in terms of gender, but it is not making much progress in terms of ethnicity and diversity there. So we wanted to really talk about changing that. And there's a big push to change the gender diversity at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And now we're putting a big push on changing that ethnicity diversity as well. And to do that, how do we do that? Well, we are actually bringing in oceanography experiences into the undergraduate experience at Cal State San Marcos. The reason this is a little bit tough is because oceanography is really, there are bachelor's degrees around the country, but in order to really be a researcher in oceanography, you need a PhD. And so they try to take people who have bachelor's degrees in other fields. So they love to have engineers, computer scientists, biologists, and chemists, physicists go to those programs as a bachelor's degree and then come to oceanography as a graduate degree. So what we're trying to do is open that up by giving scholarships, by giving summer research internships, and by having some mentors from Scripps Institution of Oceanography. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So something about Cal State San Marcos that I want to share, and that is that we were named the #1 school in the country for social mobility in early 2023. So that means that we keep our tuition very low. Our tuition's about $7,000 a year. And our graduates are more successful than most in finding high-paying careers. So in terms of who we graduate and what they go on to do, they typically get higher paying careers than other students from other schools. We are adding, well, we just added software engineering and electrical engineering. So electrical engineering is graduating their first class. So they have 20 students graduating in next week. And software engineering is on their 3rd class of graduates. So we brought these 2 on using a $6 million grant from the Department of Education. And actually Viasat gave us almost $2 million to build out some engineering labs. So that's how we started the program. And we're hoping to get that building so that we can expand it. Computer engineering is starting this fall. And then we estimate fall 2026, when that new building is built, is when we will bring on systems and industrial engineering. So by the time 7th graders now are graduating, then we should have systems and industrial engineering, as well as potentially environmental engineering and mechanical engineering. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So some of the other programs that we are adding. Well, what we've found is that we have a really high success rate of getting students who apply to med school into med school. Okay, but we don't have that many that actually make it to that application stage. And we were wondering, how can we amplify this? So what we did was we actually started a certificate program that allows you to take this certificate that includes a class on how to do all your pre-med classes. And what else do you need to do? You need to do research experiences and volunteer at hospitals and that sort of thing, and get some really good letters of recommendation. Well, how can you do those things? So we actually coach you starting in the first year how to do those things through this certificate program. And it's really just wrapping up those courses that you need for med school into a nice package. And it allows us to give better communication with the students as well. The other thing that we found, similar to oceanography, is that there's a big push right now for data science. But if you ask a company, do they want somebody with a data science degree? 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you, well, no, what does that mean to have a data science degree? What they really look for is somebody in the traditional field. So in chemistry, biochemistry, electrical engineering, computer science, with a data science experience. So we are putting in a data science minor for that purpose. So you could be a computer scientist with a data science minor, meaning you're going to be really good at machine learning and data mining, that type of thing. But you could also be a biologist with a data science minor, and that's going to tell them that you are really good for these bioinformatics careers and things like that. And those are hot right now. Definitely companies want to hire people with those types of experiences. And the other aspect that we don't have a really good scientific degree for is environmental science. So we are putting in an environmental biology minor, and we're looking to build out an environmental science degree over the next few years. So a bachelor's degree. Okay, go ahead to the next one. So affording college. First off, I want to say that there are scholarships that actually go unawarded because people don't apply for scholarships. So you need to apply for scholarships every year. And if you don't have one specific to you, apply for the general scholarships, and they will be you will be considered for all the rest of them. So that's true of almost every university, that you have an ability to apply for scholarships, and you never know what's going to pop up. For example, this year we got 5 new scholarships for software engineering and 5 new scholarships for electrical engineering, but we didn't even have 5 electrical engineers who applied for general scholarships. So they could not be awarded this year because we didn't have enough people apply. And